Vaccines were built without a true placebo baseline, and that safety foundation was used for every study thereafter. That's the excuse with the circular reasoning saying we can't ethically do a placebo safety trial for childhood vaccines because it would be unethical to give a child a placebo. The problem is we never did the safety placebo trial to begin with. So the foundation of safety with most childhood vaccines is a false foundation. We never compared the risk of vaccines to a baseline risk. We compared the risk of a vaccine to another vaccine, or we compared the risk of a vaccine compared to its buffered solution or adjuvant, or the same ingredients in the vaccine, just without the antigen. We don't have true placebo baseline safety studies. That's the circular rationale that you're going to hear in this video, where a senator from Australia questions a regulator about true placebo trials. And he's going to say over and over again that we cannot do an ethical placebo-controlled trial in vaccines because we have established their safety. But what he doesn't mention is that safety was never established against a true baseline.
Of those vaccines, how many placebo-controlled studies have been done on vaccines on the childhood schedule?
I would just highlight, if I may, Senator, this is a question that's also been asked of other regulators.
Sure.
I think part of the challenge that we have is that while it is frequently held that placebo-controlled or double-blinded or randomised controlled trials are the gold standard in science, and certainly in the introduction of new medicines, particularly when there's no established standard of treatment, that is often the case. There are fairly substantial ethical questions to be answered around introducing a placebo-controlled trial when there is a demonstrated effective medication that is used to either prevent or treat treatment. So, for instance, given that we do have demonstrable efficacy of vaccines for many vaccine preventable diseases, it would be ethically not only questionable but probably not arguable that a placebo-controlled trial would be appropriate, given that you would actually have to specifically not vaccinate children, expose them to the disease that we know has serious morbidity when we also know we have an effective.
So these are injections that we're giving to almost every child in the country at the moment, and they're not. And we can't say at this stage. You have to take on notice how many placebo-controlled studies have been done, which is the gold standard. It's not the gold standard.
I might just try and explain it in a different way, Senator. The gold standard for science is contextual, and so when there are new treatments to be determined, absolutely there is a preference for a placebo-controlled trial, so you can compare a control arm with an intervention arm, and that way you're able to remove a number of the confounding factors, but also able to demonstrate both the risk and the benefit of that treatment. When there is an established treatment for which there is not only demonstrated efficacy in terms of preventing the disease and the consequences of the disease, but also decades of real-world evidence on the safety and the positive risk-benefit analysis, the lack of an ethical basis for a placebo-controlled trial where, as I say, there is an accepted and efficacious treatment for a significant disease with significant morbidity, that cannot be described as gold standard.
So notice what he does say. He says that we have an established safety over time, but he does not say we have established safety from placebo-controlled trials, because it's true. We don't have any placebo-controlled trials for most childhood vaccines. There's a few exceptions, COVID being one of them, but the rest of them are mainly tested against another vaccine. Let's say pneumococcal. That one was tested against other pneumococcals, or the very first one was tested against the meningococcal vaccine. Not many, in fact, most of them are not studied against true placebo. And what he doesn't say is we don't have a true baseline safety. Basically, he's relying on epidemiological data, which is not study-driven. It's not the gold standard, claiming that we have safe vaccines, without mentioning the fact that our kids are sicker than they've ever been before. We have autoimmune diseases, type 1 diabetes. We have pericarditis and myocarditis. We have autism. We have so many diseases now that our children are dealing with. So to claim epidemiologically that these vaccines are safe is false, because we don't even have that data. But then also remember, he's using that circular reasoning. Because we have a false foundation of safety, we can't go back and do a placebo-controlled trial because now we've established that these are safe, even though we never actually established that they're safe. So now the circular reasoning is it's unethical not to give the vaccine, so we have to give the vaccine, which means we can't test it against a placebo, which means we'll never have a placebo trial. And then he doubles down. He says, let me explain this a different way, because apparently he thinks the senator is an idiot. And the senator is just asking a very basic question. Are there placebo trials for these childhood vaccines? And the answer is mostly no. And he could have just said that. He's not asking, are we currently doing placebo trials to make sure that the pneumococcal vaccine that was approved 30 years ago is safe? Of course, we're not going to do that now. The question is, did we ever in the beginning? And the answer is no. And he won't say that. He'll just go back to that tried and true excuse of it's unethical. We can't do it because we have established safety, which again was based on false pretenses.